Hey Sue, so today I thought what we talk about is this journey through later life. So understanding the changes that we go through as women in our 50s, 60s, and 70s. So we've been through the 50s, we're going through the 60s, and we've been working with women in their 70s and 80s for, 20 years now. So we understand a lot of these transitions, a lot of these changes that happen. We also have had that opportunity to, delve into all the research and explore and learn a lot more as well too. So I think the first thing that we need to start off with is that every woman is unique, and how we navigate things is certainly going to be different. Would you agree with that?
Very much so. And before I just want to say it's about time we started talking about women of our age because there's a lot out there at the moment for perimenopausal
Oh,
women
absolutely.
and but not so much for what happens after, which is, as you say, with us going into the 60s, 70s and beyond. And
Mm.
all of us are living longer. So, we can still do things to live a healthier life. But you're right, we're all unique. We all go through different um, we experience different symptoms or different
Yeah.
things in life. And I think it's important to remember that, as you say, because one size doesn't fit all. We can
No.
take the information in, but we have to be careful not to be thinking, oh, I should be doing this, I shouldn't be doing that. You've got to work out what's right for you, what your recipe is, I suppose.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But you also have to pay attention to, what some of the research is showing us now.
Mm,
And it
mm,
is really wonderful that there are so many doctors and researchers now actually starting to explore, this post-menopause stage that we're in as well too, which is fabulous. It's still new, as you said, but it's starting. And I think the more we talk about it, the more we're going to see coming through, and the more we're going to understand about it as well too. So
mm.
I thought I'd start back with the 50s, because this is when you know, we've we're at that menopause stage. We're transitioning through that into that post-menopause. So, menopause is that one day in time when we haven't had a period for the last 12 months, basically. And then here we are. Hello, it's post-menopause. So I think the biggest thing, and ladies would be aware of this, is the hormone changes that happen after menopause or during menopause. And that seems to stabilize itself a little bit
Mm.
more. Would you say that?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, but it's understanding what those changes are and, how they work, I suppose, because I think you're right, the hormonal fluctuations during perimenopause and then once we've hit the post, we've got to understand what they are.
Yeah, absolutely. And everybody's symptoms are going to be very, very different going through that as well, too, And there are ladies who, we were out for our Christmas lunch the other day, and one of the ladies was said, poor, got the hot flush, and she's in her mid to late 70s. And
Mm,
I said, and some of us will still have those symptoms still going on forever and a day. And what I personally discovered is, when I'm doing things that aren't contributing to my own health and well-being, let's say I eat something naughty or something that's on my naughty list as such, that's when I'll notice, it's like, oh, wow, I've got a bit hot now. And it's saying, well, hello, you probably shouldn't be doing this. So
mm.
I think the biggest thing, though, is the bone density, the decrease that we see in that.
Yes, yep,
Mm.
exactly. And, like some people go and have those scans, bone density
Yes.
tests are really good because that can tell you where you are. And even if you have been doing the strength training, which we're going
Yeah.
to probably talk about,
Mm.
you can still you still lose that bone density. I've even have,
Yeah.
and And so it's critical because you look at people like I was walking, I don't know where I was the other day, but we were away and I was going for a walk by the beach and this older, well, I won't say older lady because she was probably not, she was probably around my age,
Yeah. Okay.
and she'd had a fall. She'd obviously just slipped because it had been raining. And I thought to myself, oh, like she had this big gash on her head. And I thought, that just pulls you back to go, well, you can have a fall at any time. And
Yes.
if you haven't got your strong bones, you're looking at, you know, broken hips and everything.
Awesome. Yeah, and the statistics with broken hips is not good for recovery,
No.
particularly, once we get into those 70s. And if we do recover from it, we generally don't fully recover from it as well too. So
Mm.
yeah, it's a big thing. The other thing I think is that those sleep patterns change a lot as well too. I know for me, still being in my 60s, I wake early, so the lights coming in, so therefore I'm awake. But I know with my mum who's in her 80s, well, she's now going, well, no, it's okay, I'll just stay in bed. So, and she's actually staying up later than she used to. So it's a really interesting thing that these cycles can change for us as well too.
Yep, yep. And look, I'm like you. I wake early, and over I don't know, just recently I've been waking at 4:30, and I go to
Oh
bed
yeah,
at 9 o'clock. So
yeah,
that's all right. But it's just, you think to yourself, oh, I don't have to get up tomorrow for anything in particular
yeah,
early, but I still wake up and there's the clock 4:30, and once I'm awake, that's it. So
yeah.
but it's good. You get a start on the day, and I think that if you sort of compensating by going to bed a bit earlier, I go about 9 o'clock, and you're still getting your full sleep. I think you have to forget about going, oh my goodness, it's only 4:30, I still need to be sleeping. If your body's had the sleep, you get up and you get your day going.
Yeah, well, I'm the same. Lights up here about, 4:15, 4:30, depending. It's later, obviously, through winter, but I definitely notice that I'm out and about, and it's okay because I'm exactly the same as you. I'm going to bed earlier, so it just works.
Mm,
I
mm.
suppose we do need to talk about, that change in our collagen production as well too. So we start to get the lovely little wrinkles that start to show up. So, and that's all starts to be a little bit more noticeable in our 50s as well too. So,
Yeah, although I think, yeah, well, on definitely your face and your neck, but I do notice on my arms now. But I'm in my mid
yeah,
60s, and I got to about 65 where I didn't have that sort of little wrinkly skin,
crepey.
the
Yeah.
crepey skin. But I'm just not sure that you can actually get rid of it completely. You're still building your muscles and that with your strength training, but I do have collagen. I take that in a protein powder,
Yeah, me
and
too.
I think do things like that. But sometimes I think you look after yourself, you do what you can, but you also have to accept part of the aging. And what you were talking about, the lovely lines on our faces, that tells our story. So
It does.
you
Yeah.
know, I
Yeah.
think that there's a positive to it as well.
I know I always got told when I was younger, don't smile so much because you're going to have all these lines around your eyes. And I've gone, I just can't help myself. I'd like to smile. So it's just the way it is. So
Well, that's right. Yeah, yeah.
it is. I think so. Also, there's that mental and emotional aspect that we can start to feel a little bit more liberated. I think personally, once we've gone through menopause,
Mm.
I know for myself, you don't have to think about that time of the month, and I found that quite wonderful, to be honest. At first it's like, oh no, I can't have any more babies. And it was like, well, hang on a minute, you didn't really want them anyway. So why are you so upset about it? So,
Yeah.
and also I think some of us can get quite emotional going through that perimenopause stage as well too. So that starts to settle down. I think in our 50s, we're hitting our straps as far as our careers are concerned. We've got a lot more wisdom to share with people as well. And I think we start to explore like new opportunities, personal growth, those types of things. And I know from your perspective, look at you, you went off and um, got your certification as a personal trainer.
Yeah, yeah, and they said no to me when I was in my late 50s. They
Yeah.
said, "Oh, you're probably a bit too old." And then I said in my 63, I said, "No, I'm going to go and do this because I want to." And with your help and Sal's help, I was able to achieve that, and it's great. I've got a new career, for want of a better word, and working with lovely ladies, and it was an achievement that I wanted to do, and I think it was a lesson in not taking no for an answer when you want to
Mm,
do something.
absolutely, absolutely. Is there anything else that you want to add for the 50s that you think is important for the ladies to be aware of?
Well, I just think that if you haven't actually started any strength training,
Yeah.
or, I think they've heard it all and
Mm,
you sort of know what you've got to be doing. It's so much easier if you start in your 50s. It's never too
yeah.
late to start. But if we're talking to ladies in your 50s, start now. Start doing your regular workouts with your strength, bit of, cardio in there as well. Get those habits going because that's going to be much easier to start it then rather than, your late 60s or your 70s. As I said, you can still start, but it's easier back, 20 years earlier or something.
Yeah. I think also that main thing for the bones is
Yes.
jumping. So some impact as well as that strength training. Um, so I know that like jumping up, I always consider that about power, that you're
Mm,
propelling your body. But when you jump down, you're really putting that impact on your bones. So I always say, do some jump ups, but also make sure that you're doing the jump downs. And skipping is great, particularly if you've
yes.
got grandkids, you know,
Mm,
get out the skipping ropes and start
mm.
doing a few jumps here and there.
Yeah, and I think that someone that maybe hasn't exercised for a while might think, "Oh no, I can't do any of that."
Yeah,
Like people will say to me about running, "Oh, what about your knees? I can't run with my knees or whatever."
yes,
And I said, "Well, maybe because I've been doing this consistently, it's not affecting me." But I
yeah.
think the thing is, if you don't do it, your
Mm.
body's going to be in worse shape, and you are capable of doing things more than what you think. Like someone would hear that jumping and go, "Oh no, can't jump,"
No, but there's
or skipping, "No, can't do that." But you don't know what you can do until you give it a go.
absolutely, Sue, and also there's always that alternate for it as well too.
Mm,
Here's
mm,
the best thing that you can do, but if you can't do that, let's have a look at, doing something else, putting some impact in when you take big steps as an example. So there's always some type of option available to you.
mm.
Let's move on to the significant 60s, shall we? That's where we're at. I
I
think this
like
is
that.
significant 60s.
Yes, yes.
I think this is where, well, I know because this is what the research shows. It's about managing the metabolic changes because our metabolism does slow down, which means we do need to make some level of adjustments. So, one of the things that we hear from ladies in their 50s is, they're starting to notice that extra little bit of something, something around their belly area. So,
Mm,
that fat distribution is a little bit different. And
mm-hmm,
so it means that can definitely play a big part in this metabolic function that we need to be aware of as well too. Our muscle mass is naturally declining from our 30s unless we're doing some form of strength training and being consistent with that. So, and I think the other thing is because we don't have that muscle mass, then what happens is our insulin sensitivity may decrease, and which means that, we're starting to talk, pre-diabetes or diabetes then. So, we also notice some things around women having more heart conditions as they're moving into their 60s as well too. So,
Mm, mm.
there's a lot of changes that go on because of these metabolic changes, because we are now postmenopausal women as well.
Mm, mm. Yeah, and things are manifesting during our 60s. I mean, I felt I was pretty lucky up until about 65, but now in the last 2 years, I'm
Yeah.
67 now. Last 2 years, I've really noticed some changes, which are major sort of changes.
Yes.
And I like to think that I'm doing things right, but for even for people like us,
Yep.
there is significant change in your 60s and things, as you say, things like your diabetes type 2,
Yeah.
especially, and your muscle mass and the midsection. Yeah, all of that seems to start coming on, but other things as well with the heart. Now, I had a study which you've probably seen it. I heard about it the other day. Um, a recent study that they've done over 7 or 8 years. And you know how you're always promoting in our sessions doing those functional
Yes.
foundational exercises. And they
Hmm.
were suggesting, I think it's about 7 minutes of um, all the things we do, but in everyday, like taking the stairs, walking
Yes.
further from the car, getting in with that shovel in the
In the
garden,
snow.
or
Yeah.
yeah,
Or the
and the
garden.
snow,
Yeah.
yeah, 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 we are worldwide, so snow, yeah. All of that, I think they said it only takes about 7 minutes, and that will halve the risk of heart attack in midlife women and beyond.
Yeah.
So, what we're doing, like in this month's exercise with the farmers carry and all those sort of things, and we're doing our step ups and things like that, that's all going to help halve our risk of heart attack, which I found, you know, interesting.
Yeah, and one of the things that I have heard so many times from women as we're going through the aging process is I don't really like to sweat and I don't really like to get my heart rate up.
Oh,
Um, and of course, then the fitter you get, the harder it is to get the heart rate up as well too. So you've
mm,
got to put in
mm,
a lot more effort. So we want things to be easy, but the reality is, if we want to age well, then we do need to put in the effort. So I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It really means that we are taking responsibility for ourselves and we are doing the things that we need to do. Um, and I think you would agree with that.
oh yeah. Well, look, you look at nothing worthwhile is easy,
No.
and it is hard to say, okay, I'm going to get in and do my workout today when you don't feel like doing it, or
Yeah.
I'm not going to snack on that, food that I know is not going to be good for me because I'm too lazy to, I just don't feel like making a healthy alternative, which doesn't take as, they don't take long either. But
No.
it isn't easy, but I think you have to look at yourself as saying, well, how do I want to be? And I was talking to my grandson about this the other day because he said, oh, I'm a bit tired walking, Nan. I had him power walking around the shopping centre. And I said, well, you know why Nan does this? Because, and this is going to help you when you get older to be
Yeah.
able to do all the things that you're doing. And I think you have to look at what you want for life. I said, Nan doesn't want to just sit down all day and
No.
not be able to do things with you or with Grandad Mike or anything like that because she hasn't got the energy or the strength to do it. So that's why I'm doing it. I want to enjoy my life. And I think that, we service our cars. We make sure
Yeah,
they're running well. We make sure all our families going to the doctor or doing what they need to do. We've got to do that for ourselves as well. And I know someone like you in your situation, which has just had a big major life change,
yeah,
looking after your grandchildren, trying to fit that in is not easy. But you
no.
have to find a way to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, when the kids first came here, there was a, big transition for all of us. And it was, for me, it was like, okay, what do these kids like to eat? And it was basically they've lived on noodles and processed food. So, it was that slow transition to get them to the stage, and I looked at their lunchbox this mornings when I was packing them, and it was like, I go and buy organic sausages. I cook them up, and I chop them all up in little pieces. So, they're not taking sandwiches, they're taking their sausages in their little
Mm,
boxes.
mm,
Now love carrot sticks and sultanas, and they're having their fruit and they're having their Greek yogurt.
mm, mm,
And I think, wow, such a big difference for these kids from what they were. But it would be so easy for them to just quickly go back
mm,
to what they were eating. And I think that's really important for us to remember as well too, because when we are making changes, it is easy to go to revert back. So
mm,
we do need to
mm.
be conscious. We do need to be fully engaged in what we're doing as well too. So
Mm. And I just want to say that maybe we shouldn't look at things like it's a chore or something we have to
no,
do. I mean, we do have to do it because we want to be healthy, but if we look at it that we're doing something for ourselves and our bodies are going to feel better, you can't deny that. Once you start working out or
yeah,
exercising, once you're eating that good, wholesome food, the whole foods, and it doesn't mean that you're not going to go off track or whatever.
no,
You will, or there'll be times when you just, but then you just get back on. As long as you're consistent, I think
yeah.
that's the key.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I think in our 60s, we really have to be aware of the changes that can go on with our heart, also our joint health. We can start to
Mm,
notice more there. We can also notice that our tummies become a little bit more upset,
yes.
and we may not be taking in the nutrients as well as what we were when we were younger. So I think paying attention to our body, and when we're eating, if we're noticing, really bad bloating or wind or the likes, it's like start writing it down, start tracking it and going, well, hang on a minute, is this a bit of an issue for me? I think the other thing that we really need to be conscious of is doing those regular health screenings as well too,
Yeah.
and getting copies of it so we know how we're
Yes.
tracking,
Yeah.
rather
Yeah.
than just going, oh, the doctor says, yeah, everything's okay, and you walk away and go, oh, everything's good. Like, no, have that record, actually learn a little bit more about it, and try and understand it a little bit more.
Yeah, that's what Mike and I have always done. When I get my blood tests, I get them done twice a year for just to make sure my uh, heart is going okay.
Yes,
And in particular, apart from everything else, but I have my full bloods done. And then I always say, can I have a copy of that? Yep, sure. And then I
yes,
can, they show you uh, where you're going, how you've been. Oh, 6 months ago I was this. Oh, this now I'm here, or whatever. And it just gives you an idea of where you're at any given time and helps you to get on top of things if you've let things slide or your body's not reacting the same way.
yeah,
I think it's good for you to know it, not just for the doctor to scan through and go, yep, you're healthy or whatever, for you to go
absolutely.
through and just see if there have been any changes.
And I also think that, the doctors are working within a range type of thing. And so they're looking for those red flags. But by the time you get to the red flags, we don't really want to get to the red flags, do we?
No,
We want to
no,
actually nip it in the bud. And, a lot of the things that are happening with us have been happening, ever for many, many, many years. So
that's
it's
right.
not just all of a sudden, I've got a heart issue. It's
Mm,
been there just hanging around in the background. So, what we do each and every day just matters. I mean, I come from a long line of obesity. Um, And so it's a huge thing for me to break that cycle. You know, my grandmother had passed away at a younger age than what I am. You know, my mother is on more pills than you know what to do with, type of thing. And she really does struggle. And when I look at her, it's always that reminder, you know, as much as I don't want to do something, it's like, do it, Peter, because if you don't, this is what's going to happen to you.
Mm, mm, mm.
So, shall we move on to the dynamic 70s then?
Yes, yes,
Let's
because
do that.
we'll be looking forward to being that in a few years. So yeah,
Yeah,
let's look at that.
exactly. Exactly. So I think the 70s, well, I know that the 70s is all about maintaining movement and independence.
Yeah.
So I think the biggest changes come with our movement patterns and our strength and our power. So our gait, how we move, and
Mm.
our balance has to have focused attention on a daily basis. Foot clearance, so you know how when we're walking, we start to get that little old shuffle thing happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we want to make sure that we're lifting our feet. Hence the reason that step ups are so, so important. So if you're still living in a house that's got steps, this is a great thing for you. Don't think about it
Mm.
as being a burden. It's actually helping you.
Mm.
Um, our reaction time, it starts to decline, and our coordination can definitely need a little bit more focus because we're starting to have to wear glasses and, you know, maybe even possibly hearing aids, you know. So those things impact, you know, how we're, you know, what we're seeing around us and how we're judging it as well too.
Mm.
So
Mm.
and definitely our range of motion can decline. So, you know, one of the things that happens during that menopause is those tendons and ligaments can start to get, you know, shorter. So hence that stretching out, you know, really doing a good reach is so important. So if you find yourself, and I found myself doing this, Sue, I don't know whether you did, you know, that when you were reaching up, you weren't stretching out as far as it was
Mm.
possible. And it's like I
Mm.
had to pull myself up on it.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, all of that. We live in a townhouse, and when we
Yes.
bought it, I said to Mike, "Oh, we better get a low set because he's 76." And I said, you know, and he said, "No, no, I like the style of the upstairs, downstairs." And I thought, hmm. But anyway, he said, "I get my exercise walking up and down the stairs," and
True.
it's been
Good on
good
Mike.
because, you know, he's not one that loves his exercise, but at least if he walks up and down the stairs quite a few times, because the kitchen's downstairs and
Yes,
he's got his man cave study upstairs. So if he
right.
wants something to eat or if he wants a cup of coffee or whatever, he's downstairs and up, down and up. And, you know, it's surprising how
It
good
adds
that
up.
is because I'm even finding myself now the balance or
Mm,
the reaction time, your coordination. Sometimes I think I'm just so clumsy. Um, but, you know, so it happens to us all. I think when we're in the, what are we calling it, the dynamic 70s, we've really got to think, be a bit
yes.
more aware of everything around us and what we're
Hmm.
doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I think the other big change for us is our strength and our power. You know, those daily activities, unless we're doing some form of strength training, they can become a lot more difficult to do. We
Yes.
find that we've got to put in a lot more effort to them. Getting up and down out of chairs, and we may not even have registered this. We're starting to use our hand to push
Mm,
ourselves up, and we've already talked about the stairs. You know, we're using the handle of the
mm,
staircase rather than going into the center and actually walking up those stairs. Um, I think our upper body strength really impacts our everyday life,
yep,
like
yep.
carrying groceries, you know, putting our suitcases in overhead lockers if we still want to travel. And I think the core stability is absolutely essential for maintaining that good posture as well too. And it's really interesting. So we've had a couple of new clients start with us last week, Sue, and they're doing PT sessions with me. And so, as you know, we go through the foundation. So I just get them to do some different movements to see where they're at. And it's really interesting to see the woman in her 40s and the woman in her 50s, and just the difference in how they're getting up and down off the ground, as an example.
Mm, mm, mm.
And so it's like it was really in my face as such. And it was like, okay, if you can get this happening in your 40s, I would consider 40s as your critical year.
Yes,
Get it
yes.
done then. Get it done.
Mm,
Yeah,
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 yeah. Well, that's what I was saying before. It's never too late to start, but the earlier you can, obviously, the
yeah,
better. And the more and the stronger you feel. Like, we're in our 60s, but we probably don't feel it
no.
most days. Some days I
Yeah,
do feel
yeah,
100, but all jokes aside, you're feeling strong. You can do things. You get in and out of the car. You go and, yesterday I was going here, there, and everywhere. And
yeah,
Mike said, "What are you doing so much for?" And I said, "Well, I'm enjoying what I'm doing
yeah.
and I feel alive." But I wouldn't be able to do that if I didn't keep my body strong and healthy.
You know,
And, I think it's all part about being vital, feeling vital, and that zest for living. You know, and we all want to be like that, don't we?
oh, absolutely. And Sue, one of the other things about it is that Mother Nature, she is just a real bugger, because she just naturally tells us to slow down.
Yep.
And and it's the very time that we should be ramping it up. And I think about, like, as you said, I've now got grandkids living with us, and so, they're in full-time care. And so I wasn't planning on having a 7 and an 8-year-old in my 60s. So it was like, okay. And I thought I was fit, I was
Mm,
strong. But what I actually discovered was there was so much more I could do. And it
mm,
was like, this is a huge eye opener for me. And it's like, I'm going to anybody who will listen, don't think that you can't do more, because the reality is you can.
mm,
It's just this mind that tells us that, it's naturally okay to sit down and slow down and do a less. And the reality is we need to do more.
mm. Well, we find that with the ladies in the sessions, don't we? We've
Yeah.
got the 60s, 70s, we've got 80-year-olds in there,
Mhm.
and the focus over the last 6 months, say, in particular, has been doing those foundational exercises, but trying to encourage them to lift heavier weights. And
Yeah.
we've had a bit of pushback with that. But now that they've started,
Yeah.
it's all up here in the mind. It's, oh, I don't think I could go up in weight. I can
Yeah.
manage this, so I'm going to stay with this in my comfort zone. But those that have sort of said, oh, you know what? What's the worst that can happen? I'll only get 2 reps out. They've realized that they're stronger than what they are.
Yeah.
And then that builds their confidence even more, and they want to do more and want to get, so it's there's a lot of positives about doing the sessions.
Oh, absolutely. And I noticed that some of them are actually going and getting heavier weights, but they're not actually telling us as well too. So you can actually see it.
Mm,
So there
mm.
was one of my PTers, she actually confessed, and I said, yeah, no, I'd already noticed that the weight was a different size because I could
Yeah.
see it. So
Well, the other thing is, especially if they're coloured, and one day they're
yeah,
using blue ones and the next day they might be red or something, and you
yeah,
think, well, you've
exactly.
changed your weights there. But
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
that's the thing, not to hold yourself back.
No.
Um, do what you can with you don't want to do things like, I'll never go bungee jumping, and I'm going to say that there, but you do what you can,
Yeah.
and and sometimes what you can is more than what you think you can.
Oh,
So,
absolutely.
you know,
Yeah. All right, Sue. So let's finish up by talking about taking control of, your own health and well-being. And I think we've got to start with exercise recommendations. Do you want to kick us off on that?
well, yeah, okay. Um, Basically, you've got to do your strength training. That
Yeah.
is, that's the start. because that is going to keep you strong. It's going to keep your muscle, your bones strong, help your bone
Yep.
density. Look, there's just so many benefits of it. And I know that it took a while for people to get on board, but now, I've got even friends who aren't qualified, and they'll come to me and go, oh, I'm strength training, and they're trying to tell me all about it. And I'm sort of thinking, yeah, well, I've been trying to tell you to do that for years. But anyway, that's okay. So I think that is just, and everywhere you see it,
Yeah.
even more so than the cardio side, which
Oh, absolutely.
I used to have it back to front. I used to focus a lot more on cardio
Yeah.
than on the strength. But as we get older, it's this strength training or resistance training, whatever you want to call it,
Mm.
is to me the priority.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's right. It's all about maintaining your muscle and your bone density. So, yeah, strength training, lifting or carrying a load, lifting a load, whatever it happens to be. So, if you're on a farm like I am, you know, picking up horse feed is definitely a workout in itself type of thing. And, taking care of your heart through the
Yeah,
cardiovascular training, you really
yeah.
only, what, do that once a week? You don't have to do
Um,
it too much of it. Yeah, it's
no,
just
I,
just really push that heart rate,
yeah.
one day a week. It's not
Yeah,
a
and
lot.
we're talking pushing it, not
Yeah.
just even going for a brisk walk might not be enough.
No.
Like you could do that on most
Throw a
days if
heel
you want
in.
to get out, but you've got to, yeah, the hills or stairs or something to get that heart pumping.
Yeah.
And yeah, so you might say I go for a walk, but it's what sort of type of walk you're doing.
No.
So that, and then of course the balance exercises, which I think
Yes.
people sort of forget about, but that's really
Yeah.
important too.
One of my top tips, and I've talked about this a lot, and I know there's been a lot of ladies who have adopted this. It was like, put your toothpaste in the bottom drawer. Then when you go to clean your teeth, actually stand on one leg. So alternate each day, but stand on one leg, then reach down and get that toothpaste out of that bottom drawer and actually stand on one leg when you're cleaning your teeth.
Mm,
You're not
mm,
finding any extra time. You're just stacking a new habit on top of it. It makes it so easy to do. I've been doing this for years. And then the other thing that I do is sometimes I use my left hand rather than
mm,
my right because I'm right
mm,
dominant. So
mm,
that's a great
mm.
thing to do. I think maintaining flexibility and mobility is really important. So, those mobility movements
Yep.
is a really, really good thing to add into the daily routine if you can as well too. Um, what about lifestyle considerations? I think what we need to do is focus on nutrient dense food for overall
Mm,
health,
mm,
but eat your protein, ladies.
mm, mm.
Stop being scared of your steak. So get in there and have some. I
Yeah,
think,
that's right.
yeah, staying active, being social, being mentally engaged, having those regular checkups and health screens. And I think I'm just prioritizing sleep and trying
Yes.
to limit the amount of stress that you have in your life.
Mm, mm.
I th
Yeah, no,
would you
that
add
that
anything
covers it
else to
all.
lifestyle?
Um, no, not really. I think just in trying to get a little bit of time each day, where this will help with your stress, but where you just it only needs to be a few moments, but
Yeah,
whether you want to journal or if you're not into journaling, go for a mindfulness walk or just sit down in nature or something like that and
yeah.
just step back for a little while just to clear your mind.
Mm.
But I think you've covered everything else. And really, when we say to eat healthy and nutrient dense food, half an hour to prepare a meal, if that. It
Yeah.
doesn't take long, and you just feel so much better for it anyway.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Slow yourself
Yeah,
down while you're eating, chew your
yeah,
chew your food, all those types of things. But that's a whole other session, isn't it? I
yeah.
think the other thing that I really want to wrap up with is this mental and emotional well-being because
Mm,
social connections are so important for that.
mm, very
Um,
much so.
doing activities that you actually love doing and that give you purpose, which you've already talked about earlier as well too, Sue, when Mike and your grandson has asked you that question, why are you doing these things?
Mm,
You're doing them because they give you a sense of purpose. They
mm,
bring joy to your life as well too.
mm, mm,
Also, that mindfulness and that stress management, which you've already talked about as well too. And I think the last part of it is get involved with learning and doing new things.
mm, mm. Yes, yeah, even doing the crossword. But,
Oh,
something to keep your brain active because, and learning new things and not
yes.
poo-pooing ideas that come out. Listening to other people's opinions, reading
Yeah.
things, doing a course, do something you haven't done before, saying yes more than to life more than no.
Yeah.
And, it just gives you that well-rounded, what we've talked about today is being a well-rounded, living well woman,
Yeah.
like you've
Absolutely.
covered all areas in your life. And if you can do that, and stay on top of that, then you're just going to feel fabulous.
Absolutely. Is there anything you'd like to wrap up with?
Well, I just think that, you know, we're aging, we accept that, but it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be the end. I mean, the end hopefully is a long way off. But when we want to make each day count. That doesn't mean you have to be running on a treadmill like a little mouse 24/7. You
No.
find that balance, but you've got to live life and get out there and be active in your mind and your body. And the only way to do that is by having those healthy habits of working out, exercising,
Yeah.
eating well, seeing people, taking time for yourself. All of that just gives you so much more energy.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think all I wanted to finish up with is, just approach each decade with knowledge, start learning, start preparing for it, and approach it with a positive mindset because these changes are inevitable.
Hmm.
And so we have control over how we experience and navigate them. And we want to do that really, really well rather than allow them to control us.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yep.
Great point.
Thanks, Sue, for joining me. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
All right. Thanks, ladies. We'll see you all soon. Bye for now.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.